Hey, Brian. Just testing. Okay, thanks.
I invite you to take your seats at this time. First up this morning is we're going to have a gem moment of sharing done by Tricia Lewis.
Good morning. My name is Tricia Lewis. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm going to share a little bit about what OBUUC means to me and why I contribute financially as I can. I was raised Catholic. As I grew older, I started having a hard time meshing with other people in the congregation and the messages being taught in the homily. So I stepped out of the church by the time I turned 18 and just kind of drifted for several years. I was living in Indiana at the time. I didn't miss religion, but I missed church, right? I tried out a few, but none felt quite right. Then a good friend introduced us to the UU church in town. They sang Spirit of Life, a hymn that mentions compassion, roots, wings, and a call for my own hand to bring about justice. They recited the covenant, that love is the spirit of their church and service is its law. I was hooked. We moved to Racine shortly thereafter, but I knew I always wanted to keep UU in my life. I found OBUUC a couple of years later in 2018. Our family was going through a rough patch of active addiction, poverty, and insecurity. I felt that same warmth and kindness that I remembered from the previous church. I heard people speaking about their social justice projects in the community, and I felt proud to be among people who do such excellent work for those around us. I watched folks ask for help, and immediately many offered their time and resources. My kids were welcomed into nursery and RE. I read about principles and promises that matched beautifully with how I strive to live my life. I heard sermons and readings that challenged me to connect more fully with the world around me, with others, with myself, and with the spirit of life that flows through us all. OBUUC fills a special place in the community. It provides a home for people who may not be religious, but want faith and fellowship. It gives support for those of us who may not feel comfortable in more traditional and conservative settings, who need a safe space to express ourselves and our love without judgment. It stirs us into action by providing fellowship, so none of us has to feel like we're fighting the fight alone. It unites us by focusing on shared values and what we can do for each other, rather than what we worship. Many people find UU during a time of personal turmoil, looking for acceptance and love. I know I did. OBUUC can be and has been that place for many people. And with our support, it can continue to grow and thrive to offer that same home and hope for others well into the future. I'm excited for all that we can do together, and I'm joyful to be sharing it with all of you. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome. Welcome to Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Suzanne Landis. My pronouns are she, hers, and I am one of your worship leaders this morning, along with Carl Hubbard and Alex Riley. Welcome to all who are here in this sanctuary and all who are joining us online. Together, we claim and celebrate the promise of our UU faith, that all of who we are is welcome in this co-created sacred space. As we gather, we remember that our mission as a church is to be a community of hope, one that challenges us to transform ourselves, promote love and justice, respect all faiths, and shepherd our planet. Together, we journey toward wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community. And as a people committed to the work of justice, we covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. Living out that promise made as a congregation comes through allyship, which is the theme of this Black History Month service. We will look at the incredible work of allies in solidarity with Black Americans throughout the history of this country. We will also talk about ways in which we can put aside any obstacles and engage further in the work of welcome and effective allyship, partnering with those being marginalized in order to take down the systems that challenge basic rights, equal access, and ability to thrive in our society. We invite you to take this important journey with us.
My name is Alex Riley. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. This morning, our chalice will be lit by the Matz children, and our chalice lighting words are by Craig Rowland. I breathe in the warmth of this light, its glow filling the spaces where fear and doubt reside. I breathe out the tension I carry. I release what no longer serves me. I breathe in the strength of our community, a sanctuary of diverse voices and shared purpose. I breathe out the urge to go it alone. I embrace the power of togetherness. I breathe in the courage to speak truth, even when it trembles on my lips. I breathe out the silence that holds me back. I make space for honesty and justice. I breathe in hope of transformation, knowing we are here to build and to heal. I breathe out despair, trusting that change is born in small acts of love. As we light this chalice, may each breath remind us of the sacred rhythm of life, the pulse of creation, and the power we hold to shape the world around us. May the choir now join us here at the front to sing Hold On, Eyes on the Prize, transcribed by the Justice Choir.
Try it again. Oh, there we go. Okay. Now that we are on and working, and you don't have to watch me do my little dance anymore, it is time for the message for all ages. So all those who are young and young at heart, come on up. It is so good to see all of your smiling faces down here and out there as well this morning. Okay. All right. Question. How many of you know your alphabet? That's good. I'm glad to see that. All right. Hands down. Today, we're going to do a really special alphabet book called A is for Activist. And we're going to do every single letter of the alphabet with something about social justice and power and helping the world. So this is kind of a special alphabet book. All right, here we go. A. A is for activist, advocate, abolitionist, ally, actively answering a call to action. Are you an activist? B. B is for banner bobbing in the sky, billowing in the breeze, 'cause you're not shy. C. C is for co-op, cooperating cultures, creative counter to corporate vultures. Oh, and cats. Can you find the cats? D. Little d democracy. More than voting, you'll agree. Dictators detest it. Donkeys don't get it, but you and me, we demand equality. E. Equal rights. Black, brown, or white, clean and healthy is a right. Every place we live and play, environmental justice is the way. F. F is for feminist, for fairness in our pay, for freedom to flourish and choose our own way. Yeah, that's worth some applause. G is for grassroots, sprouting from below, sharing nutrients and the water's flow. Below the surface, we're all connected. Stronger together, we grow. H is for healthy food, a human right. Honeydew, himika, nature's delight. Hummus, hot dogs, Havarti cheese. Hot dogs? Yes. Healthy hot dogs, please. And pizza. I. Indigenous and immigrant. Together we stand tall. Our histories are relevant. An injury to one is an injury to all. J. J is for justice. Yay for justice. Jiajing Jiang, Juanita, Jamal, justice for janitors, Justica for all. I think the J is that part that it's more like it's looking like it's in Chinese, but there's kind of a J up there right above the fist. I think you're right, that is the J, or what they're hoping we look at as J. K. Kings are fine for story time. Knights are fun to play. But when we make decisions, we will choose the people's way. L. LGBTQ. Love who you choose, 'cause love is true. Liberate your notions of limited emotions. Celebrate with pride our links of devotion. M. Megaphones marching. Movimiento music. Hip hip hooray. It must be May Day. N. N is for no. No, no, no. Yes to what we want. No to what must go. No, no, no. O. Open minds operate best. Critical thinking over tests. Wisdom can't be memorized. Educate, agitate, organize. P. Peace march, protest, power to the people. Yay! With a penguin. Q is for question, questioning coercion, querying qualities counter false assertions. R, radical Reds, the headline said, ruinous rioters, the rumors spread, rabble-rousing riffraff. Really? S is for sun, soul, solar, superstar, stellar power, fuels all life, not just flowers, energized homes, cars, and showers, silly, selfish scoundrels sucking on dinosaur sludge, boo hiss. T is for trans, for trains, tiaras, tulips, tractors, and tigers too. Trust in the true, the he, she, they that is you. U is for weekends. U is for workers' rights. Wait, that's not U. That's W. U is for union. Union, yes. V is for Vox. What? Did you say Fox? No, I said Vox. Did you say box? No, Vox. Rocks? Blocks? Socks? Vox. Vox of the people. Voice of the populi. Better go see the letter D. W. Wondrous world, wondrous we. We cannot be whole, we cannot be free, unless we delight in diversity. X is for Malcolm, as in Malcolm X. History's lessons can be complex. Remember Parks, remember King, remember Malcolm, and let freedom ring. Y is for you and youth, your planet, your rights, your future, your truth. Y is for yes. Yes, yes, yes. Z is for Zapatista, of course. The grown-ups are laughing at that one. They get it. We will talk more about that upstairs, but think about all of these wondrous ways that we can go out and help the world be a better place. Kind of an inspiring one. All right, we're going to stop there and head upstairs, so it's time for our blessing.
There are many ways we give to the lives of our church, and the monetary offering is just one of these ways. Each month, we partner with a local organization and share the money that we collect. Our partner for the month is Coming Together Racine. Their mission is to actively challenge and eliminate racism in the greater Racine community while fostering genuine interracial community where all people have an equal voice and access to resources and opportunities. If you're joining us on YouTube, you can head over to our website for more information.
Part of being in community is sharing our lives with one another. When we gather, we bring with us the joys and the sorrows that are on our hearts. And being here reminds us that we do not hold them alone. This morning, you will have 2 opportunities to share your joys and sorrows, either out loud at the mic or by lighting a candle. If you would like to speak your joy or sorrow, you will be invited to come forward first. When spoken joys and sorrows are complete, those who wish to light a candle for what is on your heart will then be invited to come forward. Just a reminder that our service is streamed online, so when sharing at the mic, please be sure that the joy or sorrow that is one that you're comfortable with sharing with the larger community beyond these walls. So, if you have a spoken joy or sorrow, please come forward at this time. You may now come forward if you wish to light a candle for a joy or sorrow that's on your heart. We will light one more candle for the joys and sorrows that are on the hearts of our beloveds online. Please join with him now in singing, "There is a love holding me, there is a love holding us." The words are in your order of service.
Okay, I'm adjusting it. Good morning. Consider these words by the brilliant social justice activist and feminist Pauli Murray. True community is based upon equality, mutuality, and reciprocity. It affirms the richness of individual diversity as well as the common human ties that bind us together. Olympia Brown Unitarian Universalist Church has, for years, held services and other activities in recognition of Black History Month. Traditionally, our services have honored the history of African Americans' long and ongoing struggle for justice and full human rights. The names and histories of some of the African American men and women leaders who have led this struggle are by now, hopefully, familiar to us all. If asked to name a civil rights leader, most people can immediately name Dr. Martin Luther King, whose eloquence, bravery, and tireless efforts to achieve a just and peaceful world are so well known. There are so many others in Black history who also fought for freedom and, like Dr. King, sometimes died for it. Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Ida B. Wells, W.E.B. Du Bois, Thurgood Marshall, Rosa Parks, Medgar Evers, Ella Baker, and the aforementioned Pauli Murray, to name just a few. Today, I want to lift up the names and honor the efforts of some others who dedicated their lives to the cause of freedom and equality for Black Americans. These are white people who could not and did not remain complacent about the violence, murder, and injustice suffered by their fellow Americans born Black. These allies risked their jobs, their homes, the safety of their families, and their own lives in their efforts to help Black Americans gain full freedom and full citizen rights. Their lives and actions attest to the fact that Black history, truthfully and inclusively told, is American history. Andrew Goodman and Michael Swerner were two young Jewish college students from New York City who volunteered to work for Freedom Summer, a civil rights initiative to help Black Mississippi residents register and vote. Tragically, they were murdered, along with James Chaney, a local Black civil rights activist, by white supremacists. According to their families, both Andrew Goodman and Michael Swerner understood the risk of the work they were doing, but committed to it nevertheless. That level of commitment to a just cause is what allyship looks like. After the deaths of the 3 civil rights workers in Mississippi, James Chaney's mother, Fannie Lee Chaney, credited Goodman and Swerner for helping, even in death, to achieve some measure of justice for her son. Referring to his murder, she said, "If it had been my son alone, nothing would have been done. 2 white boys were killed, so they did something about the killing of my child who was with them." Viola Liuzzo is someone whose story you may know. She was a Unitarian Universalist and a civil rights activist from Detroit, Michigan. She was also a housewife and a mother of 5 children. Troubled by newspaper and TV reports of extreme violence against civil rights protesters, Viola Liuzzo decided to travel to Alabama, where she joined the march across the now infamous Edmund Pettus Bridge. Liuzzo also participated in other Montgomery area protests and marches, helping with planning and logistics for some of them. Her activism in support of Black lives enraged local white supremacists, and in 1965, Viola Liuzzo was shot dead by members of the Ku Klux Klan at age 39. Joan Trumpauer Mulholland is a name some of you may not know. She was a white teenager living in the South during segregation, a young woman who did not remain complacent about the anti-Black discrimination and mistreatment she witnessed every day. Joan Mulholland joined the struggle for Black civil rights in a big way. She attended numerous demonstrations and sit-ins and was one of the Freedom Riders in 1961. She was arrested and put on death row in Mississippi's notorious Parchman Penitentiary. She was the first white person to join in both the March on Washington with Dr. Martin Luther King and the Selma to Montgomery March in 1965. Joan Mulholland began her work as an activist when she was only 18 years old. Remarkably, by age 23, she had participated in more than 50 civil rights sit-ins and demonstrations. Because of her activism, she was disowned by her family, attacked on the street, and hunted by the Klan. Despite all this, she never stopped, and now, in her mid-80s, she continues her activism through her foundation. Joan Mulholland's life has inspired and motivated many other people to speak and, more importantly, to act in support of civil and human rights. In her own words, anyone can make a difference. It doesn't matter how old or young you are. Find a problem, get some friends together, and go fix it. Remember, you don't have to change the world, just change your world. At best, this is what allyship looks like. The name of James Reeb may be familiar to most of you. Reeb was a Unitarian Universalist minister from Boston, Massachusetts, and a committed civil rights activist. He traveled to Selma, Alabama to join Dr. King, John Lewis, and over 600 others in their March 7, 1965 protest march across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, a structure named for a Confederate general and prominent leader of the Alabama Ku Klux Klan. The brutal, bloody response to the march by local police and civilian white supremacists is well documented and the subject of a film. James Reeb was beaten to death in Selma by a gang of Klansmen on March 11, 1965, a few days after the march took place. Sadly, this is sometimes what allyship looks like. The story of Juliette Morgan's allyship resonates with me personally. I'll explain. Ms. Morgan was an affluent white resident of Montgomery, Alabama, who practiced her allyship in a unique and potentially risky way. Back when buses in the South were segregated, Black passengers were required to board the bus through the front door near the driver, pay the fare, then get off again and walk to the back of the bus and board through the rear exit door. This was intended to prevent black passengers from walking through the whites-only section of the bus to get to the seats for blacks at the back. Occasionally, the drivers would take off after blacks paid their fare, but before they had time to get to the back exit door. They would cruelly drive off. Whenever Juliet Morgan saw this happen, she jumped up. She pulled the emergency cord. She pretended she was confused about where to get off the bus. She stopped the bus, allowing abandoned black passengers the time to get on the bus and board from the back. And additionally, she bluntly announced the unfairness of what the driver was doing. She did this every time she witnessed it. As a result of her courage to speak up in defense of black bus riders, Morgan lost her job and many of her friends. As a teenager growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, when this happened to me, and it did, I was sometimes left stranded way on the other side of town with no money for a second fare. Very frustrating. I wish there had been a courageous Juliet Morgan type riding Atlanta buses. But this is what allyship looks like on segregated public transportation in southern states. From its earliest beginnings in 1839, the First Presbyterian Church congregation stood firmly against slavery. The first pastor of that church, this church, Reverend Cyrus Nichols, was an outspoken abolitionist, as were many members of his congregation. Presbyterian church leaders nationally expressed their anti-slavery convictions in strong language. At the October 1841 convention of the Milwaukee Presbytery, they passed the following resolution, and I quote, "Resolved that in the eyes of this convention, American slavery is a sin. That is a sin of such magnitude that all who practice it or knowingly promote it should be excluded from our pulpits and the fellowship of our churches. That while we deprecate all harsh language and rash measures in the destruction of this evil, we will nevertheless avail ourselves of all suitable measures to enlighten and correct the public mind in regard to the sin of slavery." Unquote. This and other anti-slavery resolutions passed in the 1840s were adopted by Racine's First Presbyterian Church, this one. The church was built in 1852 and sometime later became part of Racine County's extensive, network of underground railroad stations, providing food, shelter, and safe passage to many enslaved people seeking freedom from bondage. Members of First Presbyterian Church were among the many Racine citizens outraged by the capture and kidnapping of runaway slave Joshua Glover, who worked at a local sawmill here. They organized a group of fellow citizens who traveled to Milwaukee and broke Glover out of jail, then helped him to escape to Canada. They were later taken to court and prosecuted for their actions. This is what allyship looked like over a century ago here in Racine. The list of white allies in America is long and historic, too many to profile in the time allotted for this reflection. Some names of note include Jonathan Daniels, Jim Letherer, Ann Braden, Peter Norman, William Moore, and abolitionist sisters Angelina and Sarah Moore Grinke. At this critical point in American and world history, it is clear that no one group working alone for social justice can ever succeed. If Black lives matter, then so must the lives of all those marginalized and oppressed: women, immigrants, LGBTQIA, and transgender people. Our 8th principle and Article 2 commit us to work in partnership with all who value peace and justice. This is what allyship must look like today.
Our hymn of response is number 1023, Building Bridges. Alejandro is going to play through the hymn one time, then we're all going to sing it together one time. And see this line down the middle that no longer counts for the offering? It's going to count for our round. So this side of the round will be led by Alex, and this side of the round will be led by me. And we will sing the round through 2 times. Because we're short on time, I'm going to be cutting a bunch of stuff out of my sermon, or we will be here until 12:30. So if I stumble a little bit in the middle, it's because I'm looking for a place to cut and for a place to add back in. So thank you to Carl for sharing important stories about allies in solidarity with Black people throughout history and to the present time, who had the common belief that if you are a human being and if you truly believe in justice for all people, this is actually your fight, regardless of your color. The stories that we have just heard were about allies who knew the risks in advance, including risks to their very lives. It is about people who courageously put their own safety on the line because they understood what was just, what was unjust at the very core of their being, and they believed it was worth the risk to fight alongside Black people for justice, equity, and freedom. They serve as remarkable models of allyship and what it means for us right now when those in power are seeking to push back the rights and the freedoms of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and many others in marginalized groups in this country. Learning the history of racism and white supremacy is an important, very important first step in becoming an ally. We need to do our own research to learn more about the history of the struggle in which we are hoping to participate. There is much that we were never taught and must begin to learn on our own, and there are many resources to help us to do so. I had to ask myself, how is it that it has only been a few years since I learned that the federal government's biased and restrictive FHA policies in the mid-20th century that denied equal housing opportunities to blacks in whites-only neighborhoods was essentially state-sponsored segregation? I didn't know that. Or that I was in my 70s, before I learned about the horrors of the 1921 Tulsa, Oklahoma race massacre. I had no idea. There is much to learn, and I would add much to unlearn. And it is our job to intentionally do the work of discovering the true and inclusive history of this nation's past. We also need to keep up with what is happening in this moment, hard as it is, that is negatively impacting not only Black, Indigenous people of color, but those who are LGBTQ and trans and others marginalized by our culture. Diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts are being purged not only from federal agencies, but there are efforts to eliminate them now, even in private universities and private businesses. Shortly after our new Attorney General was sworn in, she directed the Justice Department to investigate and penalize private companies and universities that have what she calls illegal diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. This will include possible civil and criminal investigations citing discrimination. They are promoting what they are calling merit-based hiring, which seems a little bit more than a tiny bit ironic. And the possible endgame of this effort is truly chilling. I am deeply troubled by how this action is already redefining what constitutes discrimination, and more specifically, against whom this discrimination is now supposedly directed, and I think that we can guess. What we must recognize, both in looking at history and in witnessing what is happening at this very moment, is a critical call to action by everyone who is able to become allies in this struggle. We are talking about allyship as a theme for this Black History Month service because this moment calls for a real sense of urgency about working against the forces that are pushing back on hard-won rights, forbidding the teaching of important parts of American history in schools, and even attempting to erase whole groups of people from websites, from documents, from portrait walls at the Capitol, from every venue that gives marginalized people recognition and personhood. We need to work together in the most effective ways possible right now, and allyship allows us to engage in that important work. So how do we define allyship? Sidel M. Meliku, a Black educator, author, and teacher, defines allyship in this way. It is a strategic mechanism used by individuals to become collaborators, accomplices, co-conspirators who fight injustice and promote equity through supportive personal relationships and public acts of sponsorship and advocacy. There are many in this congregation who have done just that, who are already involved in allyship in this community and beyond, in Black Lives Matter, with immigrant rights and protections, with LGBTQ and other marginalized groups. There are those also who are truly concerned, but maybe not exactly sure how to get involved in this increasingly critical work. Right now is an important moment for looking at the most helpful ways to become an ally. Let's see. Now I'm going to be doing some cutting here, so I would like to read through the quote that we have on the front of our order of service. And that was crafted by a group of Aboriginal rights activists in Australia that says, if you have come to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. And that is what they are calling us to do. Danielle Smith, who's an advisory board member of the African Scholars Union of Syracuse University, says, white people who want to help BIPOC communities first need to take a back seat. Follow the lead of the people of color in the space that you are entering. You need to be willing not to be the center of the work of the solution and follow the advice, expertise, and request of the people who are closest to the pain and to the problem. So that's one of the definitions of allyship. And another is, somebody said in an article from the Penn State Law class of 2019, real allyship requires us to understand how to support a marginalized community. To be blunt, real allyship means you actually need to do something, because at its core, allyship demands you to challenge yourself and to get uncomfortable. And this is something that Alex is going to address more in a minute. So I'm going to skip a whole bunch more and say this. In conclusion, those who have done incredible work as allies in the past, as Carl talked about, in the present, and there are in the, out there, people who have done this out there, people who have done that in this place, have done the hard work of listening, of learning, of risk-taking, of protesting, of actively engaging in the work of changing oppressive systems. They have persevered through fear, through discomfort, through mistakes, and sometimes painful self-awareness, in order to grow and fully step into the role of being welcome and truly helpful allies. They are our models in this critical and ongoing work ahead. And Alex is going to share a bit of that with you right now. We'll sing one verse. How's that?
All right, it's past noon. Y'all want to get out of here. So, coming to an OBUUC near you, here is a trailer for the sermon I'll give later. What we value, both as UUs and individuals, is the backbone of our allyship. A core tenet of being a good ally means standing up for our ideals, even when it's difficult. Doing the work involves not just community organizing, voting progressively, or even calling out the injustice of others. It also requires dedication to personal change, breaking down barriers that keep us from creating a beloved community. And now the conclusion, which is like 10 pages down. Okay. The journey of allyship is not a destination, but a continuous process of learning, growing, and taking action. It requires us to confront our own fears and biases, acknowledge our complicity in systemic injustices, and actively work to dismantle oppressive structures. While the road may be challenging and we may stumble along the way, the importance of this work cannot be overstated. By cultivating civil courage, by clarifying our values, educating ourselves, and taking small, everyday actions, we can break free from the paralyzing grip of fear and become powerful agents of change. Remember, allyship isn't about grand gestures. It's about the consistent and courageous choices we make each day to stand up and fight for what is right, even when it is hard, and to amplify the voices of those who have been marginalized for too long. Let us embrace the challenge to commit to continuous growth and strive to create a beloved community where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. May you now rise in body and or spirit to sing one verse of Come and Go With Me, number 1018 in the Teal hymnal. Suzanne, can you come extinguish the chalice? Extinguish the chalice. As we extinguish this chalice flame, may the warmth of its light remain with us, guiding our steps and our hearts. Let us carry forward the strength of this community, the courage to speak truth, and the hope that transformation is possible. In each breath we take, may we remember that the work of love, justice, and healing is ours to continue, both here and beyond these walls. Go in peace with the light of this gathering to illuminate your way. Just blow on it? Woohoo!
Hello, I'm Carolyn Churchill of your church board of trustees, and my pronouns she and hers. Doing some announcements in lieu of Gregory. Everyone said good get well wishes to Gregory for today. Gregory, get well. GEM Stewardship Launch email was sent to members and friends on Wednesday, February 19th. There's a link in today's email. Pledge envelopes not picked up last Sunday went out in the mail. Please respond as soon as possible. There are 3 house parties planned to share fellowship. Pledge forms may be turned in then as well. The first one is this afternoon at 2 p.m. at the home of Corey and Roseanne Mason. There are several slots still open. Please join us. A private pub party is planned for Tuesday, March 11th at the DP Wiggly at 6 p.m. Sign-ups for all these events are in our fellowship hall following this service. There are still a few days of local nonprofits to apply for our offertory outreach program. The deadline is February 28th. Contact Dave Pusely with questions. On Sunday, March 9th, First Presbyterian Pastor Darren Utley will lead a tour of the Abolitionist Underground Railroad Station located in the basement of this church. This historic site is one of many such safe hiding places throughout Racine County and Wisconsin. The time of the tour will be right after our service ends on March 9th. For the women who are going to sing the I Am Woman for the March 16th service, there will be a brief rehearsal with Brian next Sunday right after our service. It should be no longer than 30 minutes. Please plan to attend. Also a note from Ruth Bradford Johnson. Those who ordered pizzas can pick them up today, right after the service. I believe I saw him in the lobby. For more information and details about some of these announcements, along with others and community announcements, see your monthly and Sunday emails. Thank you today for our volunteers, ushers, Sandy Bresowitz and Brana Woolman. Zoom host is Maria Scott. Coffee hour hosts, the 8th Principal Committee. And History Committee still has cookbooks for sale in Erman Hall. $5 each or 2 for $8, or make a donation. Bring your Love Pantry donations to church on Sunday mornings. Our middle and high school youth will use them to fill the pantry on the first Sunday of the month, which is next Sunday. That's all for the announcements today. Please stay for coffee hour. For those of you on YouTube, log into the Zoom for your coffee hour. The link is in today's email. Have a good week. Oh, the Secret Valentine, get to know your Secret Valentine little cupcake party happens right now after the service. I'll be there.